fair. He hadn't heard anything. He obviously hadn't read the whistleblower complaint with a fair-minded eye. He made it up when he read it. He's a completely compromised judge of these proceedings. It is a joke. He is completely unqualified to lead this. But that's all Nancy Pelosi has, because otherwise it's the goofball Jerry Nadler or Maxine Waters or Elijah Cummings. She picked the least credibility-damaging person out there. That's Adam Schiff. And I took out after this right away. First of all, Doris Kearns Goodwin says this, cut number 10.
Well, when I look back at the 3 impeachments that I've lived through, I mean, I really only was there for Nixon and Clinton, but I feel like I was there with Andrew Johnson. The critical thing is, how is history going to regard what the House is doing right now? Will it be like Nixon, that the consensus will be afterwards that they had to do this because he had to be held accountable? And then in the end, Republicans came along, and in the end, Ford says our long national nightmare is over. Or will it be like Clinton, regarded as a partisan endeavor that boosts Clinton, in that case would boost Trump, and doesn't lead to a discussion? And the real challenge, I think, is the debate within the way they're going to conduct these hearings. They can't just throw around words like abuse of power or violation of oath. They have to explain. It has to be a giant civics lesson to the country to understand why are these things such that these people had to feel the need to try and impeach him now before the election. And that's the story.
Listen now to what I say in response to that. By the way, she was my professor at Harvard, so you'll understand the back and forth here. Cut number 11.
I want to pick up on something that Professor Kearns said, which is...
he was my student.
I was her student.
I told you
she was like 10.
Everybody.
She was like 10. But the most important thing that was said this morning thus far is Adam Schiff came on and he went full Alice in Wonderland, Queen of Hearts. Verdict first, trial later. I believe he destroyed his credibility this morning on this show as a fair arbiter of this process. The key other thing about is there enough time, is there a middle? That middle is tired of investigating President Trump. It has gone on for 2 years, and the most interesting part of the Nancy Pelosi decision to go for a fast impeachment is the implicit but very real concession that the Mueller report had no impeachable offense, no obstruction, no collusion. It's gone. They have erased it from the record.
That is why I go on Meet the Press, so I can point out the obvious. Adam Schiff is a hack. He has made up his mind. Stay tuned, America.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, joined by Mike Allen. Mondays with Mike of Axios.com. Axios AM, of course, Mike's morning newsletter, which you should be getting. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Hi, good morning. And you're better after yesterday's victory over the Ravens?
I am so good. I am so good. That was a terrific win, and I think we're obviously going to the Super Bowl. And it's a little bit of a solve because the Indians got eliminated due to injuries and the injury bug, but the Browns are going all the way this year. I like it. Let's go right to impeachment. Summarize the weekend. I've told the audience what I think. What do you think happened this weekend? What's the lead in Axios AM about impeachment?
Yes, the lead of Axios AM is the president going into the week with the Civil War rhetoric. And something that's changed from the last impeachment as the president gears up for the third biggest battle in the history of the building, the third biggest political battle. He's going in without a war room. In Axios AM, we say the president going to war without a war room. You remember the traditional structure from the Clinton war room. Lanny Davis out there on television every night, 12 people in the White House war room behind them, 6 of them lawyers. As we saw with the president going out and loosely quoting this Dallas pastor, this president is going to be driving the message himself and it's going to be in the moment. It's going to be improvisational.
Now, I do believe that is a danger to the president. That exactly something I wrote to a friend last night. He needs to hire a head of a special counsel team. White House counsel Cipollone, very competent, but you need someone focused always and everywhere on impeachment, and you need to hire a special communications director, as Lanny Davis was, every and always on message about impeachment, and meet with them often, delegate to them completely. It's good if both of them can be lawyers, so everything is privileged, even if executive privilege is pierced. But any sense that he's gearing up that way?
No, of course. As you know, a problem with this White House has been the thin talent. The White House never staffed with the quantity or the quality that people would like, and the president now is going into a massive battle that requires a lot of resources. Now, Jay Sekulow, the president's private lawyer, told me, well, we did the same thing with Mueller, and we won. But what Lanny Davis points out to me is that Robert Mueller was going in with the principle that taking the Justice Department view that a sitting president can't be indicted. House Democrats, of course, are going in with the opposite assumption.
Oh, the House Democrats are going in with a preconceived conclusion. In fact, on Meet the Press yesterday, Adam Schiff was on, and here is what he said to open the conversation. Listen to the conclusory statements in this, and you'll get to my conclusion as to why Schiff is recused. He should not be involved in this. Cut number one. Conclusion after conclusion. Cut number
one. How your investigation is about the specifics of what the president did with the aid, with Ukraine, with Rudy Giuliani, and how much of your investigation is about the attempt to keep that from you?
Well, I think really the gravamen of the offense here is the president using the power of his office to coerce a foreign nation into helping his presidential campaign to once again interfere in our election, and at the same time withholding foreign aid that country so desperately needs to fight off who? The Russians. That to me is the most serious constellation of issues, and I know that many people have suggested, and it may have been true in the past, that the cover-up is the bigger crime. Sometimes the cover-up is the easier crime to prove. But here, yes, the cover-up is very serious, but I don't want to lose sight of that fundamental breach of the president's oath of office, the duty to defend our country, our Constitution. And here, the president is once again not just inviting, but coercing a foreign nation to get involved to try to help him in yet another presidential election. So to me, that's the most serious.
That is, so, Mike, that's conclusory. He said coercion happened. He said that a cover-up happened. He said the president has been caught that withholding foreign aid to get what he wanted. Can we trust Adam Schiff to have an open mind about anything? If Zelensky himself shows up with 20 bishops, as we used to say in law school, and said, I was not coerced, it won't matter to Adam Schiff.
Well, Hugh, as you know, this isn't a civil prosecution, isn't a normal prosecution where an open mind is required. This is a political process, as you know, and that's why you're right that you need to have both sides be armed going into this.
Well, here's Doris Kearns Goodwin on the same panel with me. She was my professor long ago, and here's what she said about the key observation that will unfold in front of us. Cut number 10 on Meet the Press yesterday.
Well, when I look back at the three impeachments that I've lived through, I really only was there for Nixon and Clinton, but I feel like I was there with Andrew Johnson. The critical thing is, how is history going to regard what the House is doing right now? Will it be like Nixon, that the consensus will be afterwards that they had to do this because he had to be held accountable? And in the end, Republicans came along, and in the end, Ford says our long national nightmare is over. Or will it be like Clinton, regarded as a partisan endeavor that boosts Clinton, in that case would boost Trump, and doesn't lead to a discussion? And the real challenge, I think, is the debate within the way they're going to conduct these hearings. They can't just throw around words like abuse of power or violation of oath. They have to explain. It has to be a giant civics lesson to the country to understand why are these things such that these people had to feel the need to try and impeach him now before the election. And that's the story that has to be told. You have to be able, just like these people are talking to you, if they're successful in making it clear that they think he should be impeached, somebody has to be able to tell a story to the person sitting next to them in the bar that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is why it had to be done. If they can't do that, and then it simply goes goes away and it's part of the Russian investigation, the country's going to be more divided than ever before.
What do you think, Mike? I think she's right, and I think that the Democrats have already flunked that test.
Well, and Doris Kearns Goodwin makes a fantastic point that she's lived, and that is the power of story. And Hugh, think about this. In 6 days, the Ukraine narrative did something that Mueller couldn't do in 2 years. It was Thursday, 10 days ago, on the front page of the Washington Post, that there was the first story saying the president had made a, quote, promise on a call with a foreign leader. Then very quickly after that, we learned that it was Ukraine. That was Thursday's front page. Tuesday, Nancy Pelosi is on global television announcing a formal impeachment inquiry. This was something that people could understand, could explain, could repeat. And so Doris Kearns Goodwin makes a great point for both sides going forward. Who is going to have something that is believable, plausible, credible? And Hugh, I know that you have an opinion about who is winning on that so far.
I do. Cut number 11. This is me after Doris said what she said on Meet the Press yesterday. Cut number 11.
I want to pick up on something that Professor Kearns said, which is...
He was my student.
I was her student.
I told you
she
I
was
was
like
older
10.
than everybody.
She was like 10. But the most important thing that was said this morning thus far is Adam Schiff came on and he went full Alice in Wonderland, Queen of Hearts. Verdict first, trial later. I believe he destroyed his credibility this morning on this show as a fair arbiter of this process. The key other thing about is there enough time, is there a middle? That middle is tired of investigating President Trump. It has gone on for 2 years, and the most interesting part of the Nancy Pelosi decision to go for a fast impeachment is the implicit but very real concession that the Mueller report had no impeachable offense, no obstruction, no collusion. It's gone. They have erased it from the record. So Adam Schiff is biased, and Nancy Pelosi has admitted that Mueller exonerated Trump.
So, Mike Allen, I don't know how anyone can conclude otherwise. I believe everyone's mind is made up. No one will be influenced by whatever they do, the circus of the next 4 weeks. And Chuck speculated we will have a House vote and an impeachment article by Thanksgiving. Is that what you're hearing?
I know that Democrats are trying to have that fast timetable, but as you know, something this White House has been successful at has been flummoxing Democratic investigations. I will tell you, Democrats will tell you, they were surprised. They were caught flat-footed by how brazen the White House has been in just saying no to these investigations. And it actually has kind of worked. And that's why this may not go as quickly as people think. But one quick point, Hugh, about the middle that you were talking about there. For people who are trying to make the argument to President Trump that this could ultimately help him in a very narrow political sense. And Hugh, don't kid yourself. The president knows what this does to him in history. The president knows that this is bad. But if you're trying to figure out the political argument for how this is going to play out, one thing they point out to is those apolitical suburbanites, a group that the president actually has had a lot of trouble with, are exactly the people who will not like the impeachment process, who want Democrats more talking about health care and other kitchen table issues. So that's the risk for Democrats. This is looking less true all the time, but I was doing a panel with a Democrat last week, and I said to them, my first question to them was, what are the chances the Democrats ultimately regret this? And that is if they become too associated with an unpopular process.
I think you're onto something, Mike, because I believe it is a sham. I have always been an institutionalist. I've always supported the Mueller probe, said leave him alone, leave the whistleblower alone now. But I believe the argument that this is an illegitimate coup attempt is growing and gaining strength because it followed on the failed Mueller investigation, and there is no there. Mike Allen from Axios. Follow him on Twitter at Mike Allen. Thank you, my friend. I've got to go a little bit early today because Alliance Defending Freedom, it is our annual attempt to get you to support the awesome work of the Alliance Defending Freedom. They are a not-for-profit legal organization. You hear them on this show all the time, protecting and defending the rights of everyone to live out their beliefs through litigation and advocacy. The Alliance Defending Freedom has 9 victories in front of the U.S. Supreme Court in recent years. They've stood beside courageous Americans like Colorado Baker Jack Phillips, Washington State florist Beryl Stutzman. I've known them both, who were attacked by government agencies simply because they defended their right to defend their religious beliefs. ADF provides free legal services to men and women whose religious freedoms are under attack, but their ongoing fight is only possible with your help, and I mean a lot of help, as ADF's Bob Trent tells us.
We exist because of the tax-deductible donations that people like your listeners provide to us. And so a gift of $100, $200, $1,000 right now will help Alliance Defending Freedom defend your listeners' freedom and provide the funds that are critical to fighting the battles for our most fundamental freedoms.
There's an Alliance Defending Freedom banner up right now at the top of my homepage at HughHewitt.com. Click on it and make your gift in any amount and help ADF defend your religious freedom. You can also call toll-free, 866-700-1060. 866, excuse me, the number is, I'm not sure. Go to the banner. I got two different numbers. I got 866 and I got 800 here. But it's, the banner's up at HughHewitt.com. Go contribute there, all right? Because we need ADF in the field. They win, and we need to win. We also need to take our relief factor this morning. There it is. Bag is out. Going to send this to the Ravens. Not really. I don't like the Ravens. We loathe the Ravens. We'll send it to the Browns, but they're not banged up. They're happy. 40 points. Okay, there's my relieffactor.com. I have very little lukewarm coffee left. That's how easy it is. I literally had a half swallow, but those pills are so completely well engineered. Like Carrion, Curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, the 4 natural supplements you ought to have in your diet every day. They go down with like a little tiny bit of lukewarm coffee. And why do I take it? Because after the show, I'm going to go run my 4 to 6 miles, which I do most mornings when I can. Got to go to New York this afternoon. That means the overhead baggage on the Amtrak. But I will be fine because relieffactor.com keeps me in the game. Going up to New York for a Talkers conference tomorrow. Talkers, the magazine of our industry. Looking forward to seeing Michael Harrison and the gang. But you go get your relieffactor.com and come right back.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Salena Zito with the Yinzer Report from Pittsburgh. Her new column is on an old-school Democrat in Pittsburgh facing a primary challenge from a young black progressive. Salena, let's get to that first, then we'll come to impeachment. Who's in trouble in Pittsburgh? Because you don't want to be on the old-school side of that debate in this Democratic Party.
Right. So Mike Doyle has been in office since the 1994 wave election. He was, I think, the only Democrat elected in that wave election year. He's a former Republican. He was the chief of staff to Frank Pecora. He ran and won Rick Santorum's old seat. And he's held the seat since 94. It's moved around a little bit, but it's centrally located in the city of Pittsburgh. It's become more Democratic with each redistricting. And he's pretty a moderate Democrat. He's facing a very progressive, very young, very charismatic young man by the name of Jerry Dickinson, who raised a lot of money for his first time. His first fundraising cycle was $150,000, and Doyle is facing a problem because within this congressional district there have been 2 state rep seats and 1 state Senate seat that flipped from moderate Democrats to DSA Democrats in the past 2 years.
Now, I am curious. Did you ask Doyle if he favors impeachment?
He didn't. Their office didn't return my calls for this story.
I would love to know because I think they're all being pushed into impeachment because of this AOC progressive stuff, and that a common sense Democrat like Doyle would never otherwise go for this. Now, tell me, Salena, how is this playing? I think it is a disaster for Democrats because it's a sham, an attempted coup, the umbrella insurance policy on top of the insurance policy. And it's got nothing to do with the transcript and everything to do with hating Trump. But what do you hear in Yinzerland?
So in the interviews I've done in Pennsylvania and Ohio and parts of Michigan since this all broke last week, is a lot of people saying, look, if it has always felt as though the Democratic complex, right? What people mean by that is Democratic Party, but also the media, have been trying to take the president down since he became president-elect in November of 2016. And they've contorted themselves in so many different ways, and they've discovered through all of these debates that they really don't have enough of a coalition to win an electoral election. And so they've because the Russian investigation failed. This was a moment of a gasp of last resort, and it doesn't play well. In particular among independent voters, and as you and I both know, and the listeners both know, that's incredibly important. Those independent voters are those key swing votes that Trump needs to win and or Elizabeth Warren needs to win, because I suspect that's who's going to end up being the nominee. And if it is a Warren-Trump election, this is the ultimate realignment of both parties' election.
Let me play for you, if I can, Salena, my comment about Warren, Ohio. By that I meant the Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan area. Cut number 12, we're talking about Rudy Giuliani, who many people in the Beltway despise. Cut number 12.
Not John Dean, and the one thing we have to be careful of is while he indeed is an object of controversy and scorn often inside the Beltway, he cuts through everything outside of the Beltway. So when you go to Warren, Ohio, people hear him, and they respect him, and they listen to him.
Is Rudy respected and listened to in Yinzer land, Salena Zito?
Yeah, he's a hero. He's America's mayor. It's really funny that you asked that. I was in an antique shop yesterday with my son, and someone was buying this. It was like an oversized bobblehead of Rudy holding with the emblem across it saying "America's mayor," and this family was buying it. This was in Carnegie, Pennsylvania. So things have not changed for Rudy's respect level outside of D.C., but because he went outside the club, because he went off, sort of off the team elite, he doesn't have the same cachet with the people that you see on the Sunday shows like you were on yesterday.
Yeah, it is to me amazing that they think Rudy Giuliani can be impeached by Adam Schiff. Just 30 seconds. Adam Schiff, what do you think is his reputation in the heartland?
Oh, it's not good. I don't think I can say the words on air what people think of Adam Schiff.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Salena, always a pleasure. At Salena Zito on Twitter. Her new column's out. Go read that. The Democrats have a civil war politically in their party. Salena writes about it today. I'll be back with hour number 2 of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Stay tuned.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 8 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings, everyone. It's Hugh Hewitt in the ReliefFactor.com studio on Monday, September 30th, 2019. A weekend where it became very, very obvious the Democrats are going to pass articles of impeachment against President Trump. They are committed. They're going to do it. There's no inquiry here. It's a question of what they think are the best optics for voting it. And Mitch McConnell will hold a trial, and it's going to be not what they expect. What is that impact of this news of political paralysis and an attempted coup against Donald Trump going to do to markets? Time for the pre-market report brought to you this morning by Birch Gold Group. Birchgold.com/Hugh for all of your precious metals needs. If you're buying bullion, if you're buying Maple Leafs, Eagles, whatever. If you're looking for a way to turn all or part of your IRA into one that is backed by precious metals, Birch Gold Group will do that for you. IRS allows you to move your IRA or eligible 401k into a IRA backed by physical gold or silver. They actually take the gold and silver, they move it to a depository. They have thousands of satisfied customers, countless 5-star reviews, an A+ rating with Better Business Bureau. They'll send you all the free information on doing this if you simply text Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 474747. You wanted to be in the precious metals? Text Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 474747, or go online to birchgold.com/Hugh. On Friday, the Dow was down 70, the NASDAQ was down 91, and the S&P was down 15. Were they rattled by impeachment? Well, this morning, everything's a little bit green. The S&P is up 8, the NASDAQ is up 31, the Dow is up 62. Gold is off a little bit, down almost 1% to $14.93 an ounce. The 10-year Treasury still very low at 1.68%. Light crude down to $55 a barrel. So it's a sort of a stable situation right now this morning. And if you want more stability in your life, get your gold from Birch Gold Group. Get your IRA into a Birch Gold Group IRA. Get the 16-page kit on how to do that by texting 474747 to Hugh. You text the name Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 474747, or go to birchgold.com/Hugh. Let me also remind you what the Democrats ought to be working on right now is drug pricing. They really ought to. There's bipartisan reform. Americans want it. Republicans are ready to do it. We can fix the patent system that allows big pharma to manipulate drug prices. We can do that in a week if Democrats would simply stop their attempt to remove Donald Trump from office for completely spurious reasons. If they focused on drug pricing reform, they could get that done. The sponsor of this program, Citizens for Truth and Drug Pricing, has got a website up for you, drugpricingtruth.com, drugpricingtruth.com. Get in the game. Get over there and get in the game. Get involved. Right, last hour, I played for you a few things of what I had to say about the impeachment. I played for you Adam Schiff is totally compromised. He is a Alice in Wonderland, Queen of Hearts, verdict first, evidence later, trial later guy. It's just not legit. Here's a little bit more. Obviously, we got an election coming up in 14 months. Chuck asked him the obvious question. Why not put your challenges out there and let the election decide this? Cut number 8.
Or do we have time to do more work?
I'm curious what you think of the argument that says no matter where you are on impeachment, especially if you are there, if you think the president should be thrown out of office, that because we're so close to November of 2020, that the election is the better place for that to happen. What do you say to those making that argument?
You know, Chuck, I was making that argument myself until these facts came to light that this is an extraordinary remedy. It should only be used in extraordinary circumstances. But here, what the president has done is such an egregious character that there's a real risk in not moving forward with an impeachment.
Stop. Did you hear that? What the president has done is of such an egregious character. It is consistent. He just totally abandoned any pretense. His mind is made up. He is going to vote an article of impeachment based upon the transcript. He is not a fair judge. He is unqualified to do this. He should step down. He has no open mind. And the American people know it's a sham. It is a complete and utter sham. I repeat for you my key points about impeachment. This inquiry is a sham. It's a joke. It's a farce. There has not even been a House vote to open an inquiry. By the way, the Mueller report is not a part of this. They have conceded implicitly that there was no impeachable offense in 2 years of Mueller investigation. 2 years, they found nothing because it's not part of their impeachment inquiry. As I just said, Adam Schiff is an Alice in Wonderland Queen of Hearts. Verdict first, trial later. He's biased, compromised. Everybody knows it. I've got those. Save those two things for me, please, Generalissimo. Cut number 8 and cut number 1.
So like
everybody knows it.
So why even hold the hearing, or why even go forward if he's already made up his mind?
Just hold the vote. Just go hold the vote. Everyone's made up their mind. Number 3, the transcript involved, which Dwayne and I are going to read next hour, so you have it on the record somewhere, does not show a quid pro quo. Read it, memorize it. Schiff distorted it for a reason in the public hearing last week because it doesn't support his coup attempt. You will find, number 4, the Ukrainian president brought up Giuliani, not President Trump. Number 5, Jim Garrity just published in Morning Jolt a chronology of Hunter Biden. He had many, many woes. And I would have sympathy except for the fact that it is standing in the way of a clear view of what is going on here. He should not have taken the job working for a corrupt Ukrainian gas company for $50,000 a month. He ought to have told people he won the Ukrainian Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. So I'm getting $50,000 a month for 5 years. $50,000 a month. By the way, he is unavailable for medical reasons for much of that time. Read the New Yorker profile and you'll say to yourself, oh my gosh, this is shady. Number 6, Joe Biden says he never talked to his son about Ukraine business. Hunter Biden told the New Yorker that they did. Number 7, why do you think the Ukrainian gas company owner, very sketchy character, hired Hunter Biden? Imagine the ways Hunter Biden could have compromised American national security. I don't know that he did. I know that you have to ask why he was hired. Then ask yourself, why is the media so uncurious about this? Why was there one New Yorker article? The Washington Post got in on it yesterday. Jim Garrity did what everyone needs to have, which is a chronology. Why was Carter Page under a FISA warrant for probable cause? It's a corrupt decision, but that was their argument. There was probable cause to believe he was an agent of a foreign power. If there was probable cause to support him being an agent of a foreign power, what do you think there was about Hunter Biden? Finally, remember, the IG report from the Department of Justice about the FBI coup attempt, their insurance policy, their abuse of FISA, it's coming. John Durham is out there investigating. The Wall Street Journal has an editorial this morning about John Durham by Mike Mukasey, the former Attorney General. It reads that we are a nation of laws, but for a moment laws appear to play a decidedly secondary role in the drama we are living in hopefully through. We have some guidance from our foundational law, the Constitution, which tells us how to proceed. The House of Representatives has sole power of impeachment. The Senate has the sole power to trial impeachment and must do so on oath or affirmation. The Senate cannot convict without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present, And when the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside. It looks almost like a legal trial, writes McCasey. Yet, despite the legal trappings, the underlying standard, if applied to a criminal statute, would be vulnerable to attack as void for vagueness. Quote, the President shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Treason and bribery have specific recognized meanings, but what are other high crimes and misdemeanors? In Federalist number 66, Hamilton defended the Senate as a tribunal for trying impeachments in part by saying that impeachable offenses come from, quote, the abuse or violation of some public trust, and they are in nature denominated political. So are we a nation of laws, but a nation of politics? Not entirely. Much media and political effort has gone into something close and often willful parsing of President Trump's July 25th conversation with Zelensky. But as McCasey points out, whether Mr. Trump's conversations with Zelensky constitutes high crimes or misdemeanors depends, at least in part, on what he was getting at when he raised the subject of a favor. He was not asking about the Bidens, but about CrowdStrike. And that you have to remember. What is CrowdStrike? They were the beneficiary of a corrupt FBI's negligence. That's what. Not a totally corrupt FBI, a Jim Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok corrupt FBI. Stay tuned, America.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Alliance Defending Freedom.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America's Hugh Hewitt. The impeachment sham that is underway has got to be called that. It's a coup. It's just a coup attempt. That's all it is. Got nothing to do with anything. That transcript is nonsense. It is not an impeachable offense, or it shouldn't be. And I'm an institutionalist. I was the guy who sat here for 2 years and said, leave Robert Mueller alone, because I knew there was no there. And I knew in the end, I didn't expect that they would try and piece together the nonsense narrative of Volume 2, but I knew there was no collusion, no obstruction. This campaign was not organized for collusion or obstruction. This campaign was Donald Trump's one-man show. It did not depend upon... The Russians interfered with our election. I've said that all along. WikiLeaks is a Russian front. I've said that for years. I'm actually the objective guy in all this. I objectively said, let Mueller do his work. I objectively said Russia attacked the election. I am objectively telling you Adam Schiff is a hack. This is a coup attempt. It is a frame-up job. It is a complete and utter disgrace on the United States Congress that they're doing this. But before I come back to that, I want to let you know something. Alliance Defending Freedom needs your help. Every October, I'm starting a day early. For the last many years, I've said, please donate to Alliance Defending Freedom. As we get close to the end of the year, people rightly turn their attention to charity and church. But in October, when the court comes back, right, first Monday in October, which will be next Monday, the court returns and begins to sit. And Alliance Defending Freedom will be there, and they'll be in every appeals court of the United States. They'll be in every district court of the United States defending you and your religious liberty. If you believe it's under attack, you've got to support Alliance Defending Freedom. You know, I think you get 5 fingers. You support a church, number 1. Number 2, a parachurch organization. Number 3, an educational institution that contributed to your good wellness, how you got where you are. That can be a high school, it can be a preschool, it can be a college or a graduate school. Number 3. Number 4, you contribute to another great institution of higher learning that is doing other work. That can be Hillsdale College, it can be PragerU. But number 5, a veterans organization. For me, it's Semper Fi Fund. That parachurch organization, that could include Alliance Defending Freedom. Because without them, we would have lost the cross in Bladensburg. We would have lost the bakery case in Colorado. We would have lost the calligraphy case in Arizona. We would have lost the florist case in Seattle. We would have lost the ability of the town of Greece to open with non-denominational prayer. We would have lost all of it. Alliance Defending Freedom wins. They've had 9 victories in front of the U.S. Supreme Court in recent years. They're it. They're the number 1 group. And they need your $100, your $200, your $50. It ought to be like putting money in the plate. And if you can do it, go over to HughHewitt.com and make a large contribution. Because ADF fights every day to keep our religious liberty, the first freedom, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. They are particularly focused on free exercise. They defend the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. They defend the Religious Liberty and Land Use, Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, RLUIPA and RFRA. They attack state constitutions that have in them the old little Blaine amendments that are discriminatory against Catholics. They defend every religious practice. Sikhs, Muslims, Roman Catholics, evangelicals, they just defend religious liberty, and they need your help. You can call 866-700-1060, 866-700-1060, or there is a banner up at the top of HughHewitt.com. When I come back, we're going to talk to Kyle Millz, brand new book, just a little break here. Lethal Agent is out. Then I'm going to tell you about this Ukrainian gas company that hired Hunter Biden. And I want you to think, assume, because it's true, Hunter Biden is working for a corrupt Eastern European oligarch. A Ukrainian oligarch, not a Russian oligarch, but a corrupt Ukrainian oligarch. What would you think about the ways that Hunter Biden could endanger the national security by working with shady people and being surrounded by eavesdropping instruments and having his electronics in Ukraine and having his person followed? Just ask yourself, what was he doing getting $50,000 a month from Burisma? Stay tuned, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Simon & Schuster.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
I am joined now, America, by Kyle Millz. Now, many of you will not know Kyle's name. Many of you will. He's been a very successful political thriller novelist for many, many years. And then after Vince Flynn died, our late great friend Vince Flynn, after a couple of years, the family came and they picked Kyle Millz out of everyone in the country to continue the Mitch Rapp theories. His brand new book, Lethal Agent, is out. So, Kyle Millz, when you set out to bring Mexican cartels into this, you're up against people like Don and other people who write deeply about cartels, but I found that it rang true both in its economics and its violence. Do you think the American people quite understand how Mexico works?
I think it's hard to imagine. For most people, unless you really dive deep into it, it's difficult to imagine. I mean, they had a cartel leader die, a while back, 10 or 15 years ago, who a lot of people estimated it was wealthier than Bill Gates. So it's a bizarre system, and it's mostly U.S. money, which is kind of a shame. But the American people like to get high, and the cartels like to supply that.
Yeah, Don Winslow has really elaborately sketched how they operate, but you bring it in the condensed version. And the way that they operate is by epic violence. And I don't know that I've seen an operator story set. One of our thrillers, a Silva story, a Berenson story, C.J. Box guy. I haven't seen anyone set in the cartel world. Is that because we just don't know how it works? Is it difficult to research?
It is difficult to research, but it can be done, and it was a fun setting, I think, for Mitch Rapp to operate in. One of the things I like doing with Mitch is putting him in situations that make him uncomfortable. And he's very comfortable in the Middle East. You know, he can pass as being from the Middle East. He speaks the language fluently and everything. And it was kind of funny to send him down to Mexico, and he's got like the rest of us, 9 words of Spanish. And
that's 8 more than I have.
How things are operating.
That's 8 more than I have. Yeah, I would.
He orders a taco at one point.
It's a very funny scene, and I also thought you might have put it in there because the challenge he has to face with the cartel boss is unique.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, I was living in Spain at the time, and I was struggling myself with communication. So it was something I was definitely an expert in, and not being able to speak Spanish very well. I don't
like vicious dogs, and you apparently do.
Yeah, well, the cartels do. It seems like all those guys are all about their pit bulls. So you had to add that. Also, that kind of harkens a little bit back to the wanting to write a classic Vince Flynn thriller. And there are a lot of elements to Vince Flynn thrillers that no one ever notices. The reader wouldn't notice. I didn't notice when I was reading Vince until I really dug into the books and researched them. But a lot of Vince's action sequences somehow involved a dog. I don't know why.
Uh-huh.
But so it was kind of a conscious decision to have sort of an action sequence with a dog in it, or in this case, a lot of dogs.
So, Kyle, I want to back up to the actual process of writing. How long does Lethal Agent take you? I know C.J. Box works on 2 novels a year, Brad Thor on 1, Daniel Silva on 1, Alex Berenson's taken some time off to work on Dope. How about you?
I can only do 1. It takes me a year, with the exception of The Survivor, which is the first book I wrote for the Mitch Rapp series, and that took me 15 months. But the first 3 were rereading the entire series in order. So, but I'm pretty consistent at a year.
I am curious as to the timing of the release in October. A lot of thrillers come out at the height of summer for beach books. You're coming out in the Christmas market. Was that conscious on your part, or is it just the way the calendar worked?
We come out every year kind of right around the end of September, beginning of October, and I'm not sure. I honestly don't know if that was a very, very conscious decision as to the market, or if it was just that's when I could get the book done.
All right, now let's conclude by going back to the hardcore Vince Flynn reader. That was me, and I didn't pick up your first one or your second or your third because I know Vince. Vince was a friend of mine, and I thought, oh, gosh, this is going to be too hard to do, until Brad Thor looked me in the eye and said, you're going to love Kyle Millz. He's going to deliver exactly what you want. How many people are there out like me that just need the push to get back into Mitch Rapp?
I think there are actually still a lot of people out there, because I get emails pretty regularly from people that say, well, I finally picked up your book. I couldn't resist anymore because people kept telling me, they're just like Vince's books. And so I've been resisting, but I finally picked one up, the latest one, and then I went back and read them all. So, my goal with this was very much not to try to write Kyle Millz books about Mitch Rapp. These are books that I consciously sit down and try to think, what would Vince be writing today if he was here? And how would he be writing them? So the goal is to create a book that is going to feel very familiar to fans and that they're going to love.
And he would not be seduced by the idea that ISIS is gone. You are not seduced by the idea as ISIS is gone. You just believe it's been dispersed in adopting new tactics for asymmetrical warfare.
Yeah, it's hard. ISIS is whatever the people in the Middle East believe it to be. So it's not something you can ever get rid of. It just keeps changing its form. The same with Al Qaeda or any other terrorist group. So it's something you have to be kind of constantly vigilant about.
Kyle Millz, congratulations on Lethal Agent. Lethal Agent in bookstores everywhere now. You can get it at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. Anywhere you buy books, you can get the brand new Vince Flynn novel, Lethal Agent, written by Kyle Millz. Kyle, look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, I want you to understand that I am going way beyond what I've said before when I am criticizing this impeachment charade. I'm an institutionalist. I thought Robert Mueller was a fine pick. Leave him alone. He ended up producing nothing. I think his process got hijacked by left-wingers because he got old and tired. But I was all in, fine. Go on, let it go. Came out with nothing. No collusion, no obstruction. As, by the way, is implicit in the fact that the Democrats are not impeaching President Trump on that. But Ward Carroll's a friend of mine, a very smart guy up at the Naval Institute in Annapolis. And he tweeted out 10 minutes ago, the, quote, undoing the election results the libs didn't like, close quote, narrative ignores real Donald Trump's conduct since his inauguration. Even his most vocal critics at that point couldn't have imagined how reckless and self-serving his narcissistic impulses would be. Hashtag impeachment. Ward, you're wrong. I need you to read Kim Strassel's new book, Resistance at Any Cost. I need you to pay attention to the fact that Trump has done many things worth criticizing. Just now, he's not responding to the Iran attack on Saudi Arabia in the right way. I hate his tariffs. I don't like his tweets. There's much I object to in President Trump's 2.5 years in office. There is no impeachable offense. This is a coup. This is the result of Democrats frustrated that Mueller found no collusion, Barr found no obstruction, and Democrats have a progressive left wing that is crazed. By all means, you can go after the president for his temperament. You can go after the president for his tweets. You can go after the president for all sorts of things, but not this phone call. This phone call is a pretext. This is a pretext for a political maneuver that they think will help them. It is an abuse of the constitutional authority. Donald Trump has always respected court orders, even these bogus nationwide injunctions, which are flowing out like lava from Vesuvius. Right? Nationwide injunctions are themselves an assault on our court system. Donald Trump has put up with a lot of nonsense. He's not my favorite president. George W. Bush is. He is not my kind of guy. He's not the kind of guy I want to play golf with. I don't play golf. I think he's fascinating and interesting, and he is a P.T. Barnum mixed with Andrew Jackson. He's Rockefeller without the art collection. He's a lot of things. He is not, however, a president who has committed an impeachable offense, in my view. This is a pretextual process, and Adam Schiff proved it yesterday. Now, as we go forward in this, we have to stay focused on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden because it's about the Ukraine. And before Donald Trump ran for office, Hunter and Joe were deeply involved in the Ukraine. Let me read you from the Financial Times today, one of the most reputable newspapers in the world. When Ukraine's kleptocratic elite fled to Russia after a pro-Western revolution in 2014, former Minister Mykola Zlochevsky suddenly found himself the target of an international investigation into the sources of his wealth. The United Kingdom's Serious Fraud Office froze $23 million in Mr. Zlochevsky's bank accounts in April that year as part of an FBI-led attempt to recover a staggering $100 billion in assets stolen by the former president, Viktor Yanukovych, and his entourage known as the family. Mr. Zlochevsky, the owner of Burisma, Ukraine's largest private gas company, which acquired several of its extraction licenses while he was in government, had lost a political patron when Mr. Yanukovych was evicted from office. Weeks later, the Burisma energy tycoon sought help elsewhere. Burisma made a surprise appointment to its board. Hunter Biden, the younger son of then U.S. Vice President Joe Biden. It was a move that would ultimately lead to the impeachment proceedings triggered last week against President Donald Trump. Mr. Biden's 5-year tenure on Burisma's board, which ended this year as his father announced his run for president, was part of a shrewd campaign by Mr. Zlochevsky to repair his image in the West. Was that all it was, I wonder? We'll see. The ex-minister overcame concerns about his wealth to wriggle out of corruption investigations in Ukraine and Britain and became one of the country's richest men. Burisma's gas production rose to 1.3 billion cubic meters last year, a sizable share of Ukraine's total 20 billion cubic meters annual output. Its revenues approached $400 million a year. $50,000 a month is peanuts compared to this. That's what they were paying Hunter Biden. Mr. Zlochevsky has now been dragged into a political scandal of far greater magnitude as Congress prepares. It's not preparing to investigate. Mr. Trump has decided for pressing Volodymyr Zelensky, his Ukrainian counterpart, the president of Ukraine, to dig up dirt on the Bidens. He did not so do. He asked them to dig up CrowdStrike. But you get a sense here what's going on. A corrupt Ukrainian oligarch hired Hunter Biden for 5 years at $50,000 a month. That's the same conduct that would get, it's worse than what Carter Page got surveilled for. Lots more coming up on that. Time for ReliefFactor.com. You need to know that if you're going to go exercise today, like I do after the show every morning, at least mornings when I'm not traveling, ReliefFactor.com gets you ready for exercise. It gets you ready to deal with arthritis. It gets you ready for everything. The 4 natural supplements ought to be in everyone's diet every day. By carrying curcumin, resveratrol, omega. In the right amount, all the guesswork taken out, beautifully, wonderfully produced by Pete and Seth Talbot, the father-son team that started ReliefFactor.com years and years ago. Tens of thousands of people use it every morning, including me, the fetching Mrs. Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, Dennis Prager, Seb Gorka, Larry Elder. We all use it. We were turned on to it by Pete and Seth, and they have made converts of us all. And it is one of the reasons you can keep exercising as you get older. And you should be doing that. ReliefFactor.com, $19.95. Get you started. Come right back here on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I am convinced that the country is going to revolt against this show trial, this sham inquiry. I want to go back and play for you Adam Schiff on yesterday's Meet the Press, 2 cuts. Listen to the fact it's all conclusory. He's reached his decision. This is a sham. He is going forward with impeachment without an inquiry because he does not want an inquiry. He wants to get to the vote because he believes they got to get it done quickly or it'll interfere with the presidential campaign. But they haven't even taken a vote yet to hold the inquiry. But listen to him, cut number 1.
Investigation. How your investigation is about the specifics of what the president did with the aid, with Ukraine, with Rudy Giuliani, and how much of your investigation is about the attempt to keep that from you?
Well, I think really the gravamen of the offense here is the president using the power of his office to coerce a foreign nation into helping his presidential campaign to once again interfere in our election, and at the same time withholding foreign aid that country so desperately needs to fight off who? The Russians. That to me is the most serious constellation of issues, and I know that many people have suggested, and it may have been true in the past, that the cover-up is the bigger crime. Sometimes the cover-up is the easier crime to prove. But here, yes, the cover-up is very serious, but I don't want to lose sight of that fundamental breach of the president's oath of office, the duty to defend our country, our Constitution. And here, the president is once again not just inviting, but coercing a foreign nation to get involved to try to help him in yet another presidential election. So to me, that's the most serious.
All right, so 5 conclusions. Gravamen of the offer to coerce a foreign country to interfere with our election. So he's said the president coerced a foreign country to interfere with our election. He said he withheld foreign aid to coerce that. Number 2. Number 3, he said there is a cover-up. The cover-up is very serious. Number 4, he said that's a fundamental breach of the oath of office. Number 5, he said, again, the president coerced a foreign country. Then minutes later, he says this, cut number 8.
Or do we have time to do more work?
I'm curious what you think of the argument that says no matter where you are on impeachment, especially if you are there, if you think the president should be thrown out of office, that because we're so close to November of 2020, that the election is the better place for that to happen. What do you say to those making that argument?
You know, Chuck, I was making that argument myself until these facts came to light that this is an extraordinary remedy. It should only be used in extraordinary circumstances. But here, what the president has done is such an egregious character that there's a real risk.
What the president has done, it isn't an inquiry. It's a show trial. What the president has done, as opposed to Adam Schiff saying, we are going to look at these allegations and then determine. It's not an inquiry. It's a show trial. It's a sham. And Adam Schiff said it in front of everyone, and Chuck just gave him the rope with which to hang his own credibility. Now, right after that, Doris Kearns Goodwin, one of the great American popular historians out there, a long time ago, professor of mine, as I'll refer to subsequently, she said this about what the key question is about this congressional sham, cut number 10.
Well, when I look back at the 3 impeachments that I've lived through, I mean, I really only was there for Nixon and Clinton, but I feel like I was there with Andrew Johnson. The critical thing is, how is history going to regard what the House is doing right now? Will it be like Nixon, that the consensus will be afterwards that they had to do this because he had to be held accountable? And then in the end, Republicans came along, and in the end, Ford says our long national nightmare is over. Or will it be like Clinton, regarded as a partisan endeavor that boosts Clinton, in that case would boost Trump, and doesn't lead to a discussion? And the real challenge, I think, is the debate within the way they're going to conduct these hearings. hearings, they can't just throw around words like abuse of power or violation of oath. They have to explain. It has to be a giant civics lesson to the country to understand why are these things such that these people had to feel the need to try and impeach him now before the election. And that's the story that has to be told. You have to be able, just like these people are talking to you, if they're successful in making it clear that they think he should be impeached, somebody has to be able to tell a story to the person sitting next to them in the bar that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is why it had to be done. If they can't do that, and then it simply goes away and it's part of the Russian investigation, the country is going to be more divided than ever before.
She's absolutely right. And it is nothing that can be explained to the person next to you in a bar except that it's a coup. Here I am, cut number 11, talking about what Doris Kearns Goodwin just said.
I want to pick up on something that Professor Kearns said, which is...
He was my student.
I was her student.
I told you
she
I was
like
older
10.
than everybody.
She was like 10. But the most important thing that was said this morning thus far is Adam Schiff came on and he went full Alice in Wonderland, Queen of Hearts. Verdict first, trial later. I believe he destroyed his credibility this morning on this show as a fair arbiter of this process. The key other thing about is there enough time, is there a middle? That middle is tired of investigating President Trump. It has gone on for 2 years, and the most interesting part of the Nancy Pelosi decision to go for a fast impeachment is the implicit but very real concession that the Mueller report had no impeachable offense, no obstruction, no collusion. It's gone. They have erased it from the record. So Adam Schiff is biased, and Nancy Pelosi has admitted that Mueller exonerated Trump.
Just so clear, President just tweeted, by the way, the greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. I think the American people are going to agree with him because Adam Schiff revealed his hand yesterday. He's a biased hack. Stay tuned, America, to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada, greetings. It's Hugh Hewitt. I have been playing for you endlessly from the ReliefFactor.com studio. The reasons why the Adam Schiff-led, quote, inquiry is a sham. It's a show trial. It's an attempted coup against President Trump. What did Lindsey Graham have to say on Face the Nation yesterday? Cut number 15.
Every American deserves to confront their accuser. So this is a sham as far as I'm concerned. I want to know who told the whistleblower about the phone call. I want to know why they changed the rules about whistleblowers. Not the hearsay rule was changed just a short period of time before the complaint was filed. The complaint sounds like a legal document. Who helped this guy write it or this girl write it? We're not going to try the President of the United States based on hearsay. Every American has the right to confront their accuser.
Cut number 19, former Attorney General Michael Mukasey on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo.
Wrong, you mean illegal?
Yeah.
No. He suggesting that he was talking to a foreign leader about getting information that might be useful to him in an election is probably indiscreet. It is not, as far as I know, unlawful under any statute.
It's not unlawful, and I'm not even sure it's indiscreet given that he was talking about CrowdStrike. Cut number 18, again, the former Attorney General Mike Mukasey on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo.
Wrong, unlawful?
Yeah.
Don't know. Depends on what he did. The fact is that
I'm looking for
his son...
18. Cut 18.
It is.
Apparently got a job with a Ukrainian gas company, a business he knew nothing about, with no demonstrable credential other than that he was Joe Biden's son. Joe Biden also demanded that a prosecutor be fired who was investigating that company. Now, whether that was a criminal violation or not is a matter that needs investigating, but certainly it was indiscreet.
Certainly it was indiscreet. Do you know that Mike Mukasey has an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today? It reads, that Justice Department statement that was put out last week makes explicit that the president never spoke with Attorney General William Barr, quote, about having Ukraine investigate anything relating to former Vice President Biden or his son, close quote, or asked him to contact Ukraine, quote, on this or any other matter, close quote, and that the Attorney General has not communicated at all with Ukraine. Mukasey continues. It also contains the following morsel, quote, a Department of Justice team led by U.S. Attorney John Durham is separately exploring the extent to which a number of countries, including Ukraine, played a role in the counterintelligence investigation directed at the Trump campaign during the 2016 election. While the Attorney General has yet to contact Ukraine in connection with this investigation, certain Ukrainians who are not members of the government have volunteered, close quote, information to Mr. Durham, which he is evaluating. The definitive answer to the obvious question, what's that about, is known only to Mr. Durham and his colleagues, but publicly available reports, including by Andrew McCarthy in his new book, Ball of Collusion, suggest that during the 2016 campaign, the Federal Bureau of Investigation tried to get evidence from the Ukrainian government officials against Mr. Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, to pressure him into cooperating against Mr. Trump. When you grope through the miasma of Slavic names and follow the daisy chain of related people and entities, it appears that Ukrainian officials who backed the Clinton campaign provided information that generated the investigation of Mr. Manafort, acts that one Ukrainian court has said violated Ukrainian law and, quote, led to interference in the electoral processes of the United States in 2016 and harmed the interest of Ukraine as a state. There's a lot coming, friends, a lot coming. And everybody on the left, the media and the left, want to leave Joe Biden alone. Kamala Harris, who I thought was going to be a great candidate, turns out to be a dud. Really turns out to be the AAA person who hit 50 home runs and comes up and strikes out every time it passed. Kamala Harris, senator from California, said this about Joe Biden yesterday, cut number 14.
If you're elected president, would you allow the son or daughter of your vice president to serve on the board of an oil company outside this country?
Probably not. But I think that the problem that we've got, again, with this issue is that it's a distraction from the fact that, look, as far as I'm concerned, leave Joe Biden alone. Just leave him alone on this issue of what this president has done that has been about corrupting America's democracy, being in cahoots with a foreign leader to yet again try and manipulate the election of the president of the United States.
Bad judgment, though?
I'm not going to be distracted by what this president is trying to play, which is a game because he knows that he is actually probably looking at an indictment and is trying to then distract from the realities of his behaviors that have been in violation of our moral, our ethical, and probably our legal rules and mores.
Leave Joe Biden alone. Leave Joe Biden alone. Kamala Harris, who's running against Joe Biden, says leave Joe Biden alone. Why is that? Number one, they know he's falling apart. Why bother stepping in when your opponent is committing suicide? Number two, they don't want CrowdStrike to come up again. I tried to explain this off the set yesterday to a friend in the media that what Kim Strassel shows, the growing impression on institutionalists like me, people who don't believe in the deep state, is that the FBI's investigation into President Trump was illegitimate and from the beginning intended to contribute to his loss and delegitimize him if he won. And that Comey, McCabe, Strzok, and a bunch of other people, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, are all complicit, and it's all illegal. And the Mueller probe, though not complicit and illegal, proved that. There's no there. And that now they are afraid, they are very afraid of what John Durham is going to find. And Joe Biden and Hunter Biden lead them there, in part, as part of the slimy, corrupt backstory of the Obama years. And they don't want that to come out. No way they want that to come out. So they're doing everything they can. Has it hurt Joe Biden? Oh, my gosh, yes. Cut number 13, the Meet the Press full panel yesterday with me and Doris Kearns and Mark Leibovich and Chuck. Go ahead and Yamich, cut number 13.
To damage Biden with it?
Oh, he is definitely damaged. To your question, yes, that is good news. Joe Biden has been devastated by this. There is in the Washington Post this morning on the landing page, not only a column by me, which is a partisan column, but an in-depth report about Hunter Biden and Ukraine, doing what you did with Mike McFaul, a chronology, building on the New Yorker profile. And I believe in one standard. If there was enough evidence to use a FISA warrant against Carter Page for being a probable cause for being an agent or an accomplice of a foreign government, Hunter Biden should have been under the same surveillance from 2014 forward for the same reasons that he is deeply cooperating with people whose interests are not aligned with the United States abroad.
I don't know. Hugh,
Read the column.
I have no idea how that is even remotely relatable, but I will read your column.
I would put it under the umbrella, and he wrote a great column, but I would put it under the umbrella of exhaustion. I think, as you said earlier, I think you said a lot of people are exhausted from the Democrats investigating Donald Trump. I would just say people are exhausted. A lot of people are exhausted with everything around Donald Trump. I think that happened before Ukraine. I think it started to show up in Donald Trump's numbers. I think this story has put a whole new big pile of exhaustion onto this big sort of smoldering whatever it is we have.
You can be pro-Trump's agenda and have Trump fatigue, Doris.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the problem for Joe Biden is that what he had going for him was that he was part of the Obama administration, scandal-free, basically, no drama every day, and he could return to that normalcy in a certain sense. Now he's been made part of this drama. The benefit for him, because I agree with you, there's risks and benefits, is not only the sympathy that people might feel, but if this really ups his campaign, if he realizes, I'm fighting for honor and my reputation, I'm not just fighting because I'm electable.
I got to stop because the President of the United States has tweeted. The fake whistleblower complaint is not holding up, writes Trump. It is mostly about a call to the Ukrainian president, which in the name of transparency I immediately released to Congress and the public. The whistleblower knew almost nothing. It's secondhand description of a call. It is a fraud. Then he just tweeted 2 minutes ago, Representative Adam Schiff illegally made up a fake, in caps, and terrible statement, pretended it to be mine as the most important part of my call to the Ukrainian president, and read it aloud to Congress and the American people. It bore no relationship to what I said on the call. Arrest for treason? No, Mr. President, it's not treason. It's stinky, it's smelly. It convicts Schiff of being a transparently partisan, completely corrupt political actor, but it's not treason. Don't undercut your own case by going that far. It just shows Schiff for what he is. It's a hack job. It's a sham. Don't go anywhere, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thank you so much for listening to the Hugh Hewitt Show. I am time to bring you the pre-market report brought to you by AndrewandTodd.com. AndrewandTodd.com. They are the best mortgage company in the world because they work for Sierra Pacific, and they are lenders, not brokers. AndrewandTodd.com. I got my loan here when we moved to the Beltway. Refinanced my house in California. They've taken care of every member of my family. They are completely trustworthy, men of impeccable integrity, committed to you. They have a great team. 888-888-1172 if you want to call them up. 888-888-1172. Or if you just go online to andrewandtodd.com and answer a couple of questions, they'll tell you exactly what you should do, including if it's nothing. If you got the greatest loan in the world, they're not going to just refinance you to make a couple of bucks. That's not who they are. They give you the best idea and the best rate that they can find for you. And if you got dinged up credit, they will help you repair it. If you're a veteran, they can get you 100% financing. If you're a senior citizen, they can absolutely get you a reverse mortgage. Call them, talk to them. Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian at andrewandtodd.com. On Friday, it was a red day on the NASDAQ. All right, but this morning, the futures are all pretty good. All right, the futures are all looking good. On Friday, Dow was down 70, the NASDAQ down 91, the S&P down 15. This morning, the S&P's up almost 10, the NASDAQ up 33, and the Dow up 66. It is still a great day to get a mortgage or a refinance because the 10-year Treasury is at 1.68%. I'm now so used to this, I don't even stop and say, wow. Normally in the threes, the 10-year bond is not the interest rate you get. It's the interest rate on which all other interest rates are figured. Therefore, you need to know what it is in order to anticipate. And right now, it's just where you want it to be. Light crude's at $55, gold at $14.91, down 1%. Great day to call 888-888-1172 and talk to Andrew and Todd. Doug Collins, chairman of the ranking member on Judiciary, talked about one of the very odd things about this whistleblower complaint that led to the transcript we're about to read. Doug Collins yesterday on Fox News, cut number 17.
Well, that's what's really been interesting here in the last little bit, because we've been finding out that the whistleblower rules, especially in the intelligence community, seem to have been changed. And they've been changed from requiring and demanding a first-hand account or an actual knowledge, first-hand knowledge of the abuse or the misuse of issues in the intelligence community to now where they could have second-hand information. If you look at the whistleblower report, even besides the transcript and everything else, comparing the two is really interesting because it seems to be a very well-written document, multi-sourced. If this was a piece for the New York Times or the Washington Post, that might be what you expect. But you don't expect this in what comes to form as a legal document, accusing a president of doing something in a illegal fashion and doing so from second-hand information. Now, as we go forward here, is that going to be the standard that has been changed now in the intelligence community to where basically anybody there can take any report that they want to over the water cooler or wherever and decided to file a complaint? This is more serious than this. This president and our country deserves better than what we're seeing right here.
It is a very important point Collins just made. Lindsey Graham made the ultimate point. Cut number 15.
Every American deserves to confront their accuser. So this is a sham as far as I'm concerned. I want to know who told the whistleblower about the phone call. I want to know why they changed the rules about whistleblowers. The hearsay rule was changed just a short period of time before the complaint was filed. The complaint sounds like a legal document. Who helped this guy write it or this girl write it? We're not going to try the President of the United States based on hearsay. Every American has the right to confront their accuser.
It is a sham. This is the point I made yesterday on Meet the Press. I want to play cut number 11.
I want to pick up on something that Professor Kern said, which is...
He was my student.
I was her student.
I told you
she
I
was like
older
10.
than everybody.
She was like 10. But the most important thing that was said this morning thus far is Adam Schiff came on and he went full Alice in Wonderland, Queen of Hearts. Verdict first, trial later. I believe he destroyed his credibility this morning on this show as a fair arbiter of this process. The key other thing about is there enough time, is there a middle? That middle is tired of investigating President Trump. It has gone on for 2 years, and the most interesting part of the Nancy Pelosi decision to go for a fast impeachment is the implicit but very real concession that the Mueller report had no impeachable offense, no obstruction, no collusion. It's gone. They have erased it from the record, so Adam Schiff is biased, and Nancy Pelosi has admitted that Mueller exonerated Trump.
That is what happened yesterday. Coming up after the break, the transcript, a reading of it by General Lee Sylvia and me, so you can hear what didn't happen. Stay tuned.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. On July 25th, President Trump called President Zelensky of the Ukraine at 9:03 in the morning. Here is what was said. The president: congratulations on a great victory. We all watched from the United States. You did a terrific job. The way you came from behind somebody who wasn't given much of a chance, and you ended up winning easily. It's a fantastic achievement. Congratulations.
You are absolutely right, Mr. President. We did win big, and we worked hard for this. We worked a lot, but I would like to confess to you that I had an opportunity to learn from you. We used quite a few of your skills and knowledge, and were able to use it as an example for our elections. And yes, it is true that these were unique elections. We were in a unique situation that we were able to achieve a unique success. I'm able to tell you the following. The first time, you called me to congratulate me when I won my presidential election, and the second time, you are now calling me when my party won the parliamentary election. I think I should run more often, so you can call me more often and we can talk over the phone more often.
Ha ha ha, laughter. That's a very good idea. I think your country is very happy about that.
Well, yes, to tell you the truth, we are trying to work hard because we wanted to drain the swamp here in our country. We brought in many, many new people. Not the old politicians, not the typical politicians, because we want to have a new format and a new type of government. You are a great teacher for us, and in that.
Well, it's very nice of you to say that. I will say that we do a lot for Ukraine. We spend a lot of effort and a lot of time, much more than the European countries are doing. And they should be helping you more than they are. Germany does almost nothing for you. All they do is talk. And I think it's something that you should really ask them about. When I was speaking to Angela Merkel, she talks Ukraine, but she doesn't do anything. A lot of the European countries are the same way, so I think it's something you want to look at. But the United States has been very good to Ukraine. I wouldn't say that it's reciprocal necessarily, because things are happening that are not good, but the United States has been very good to Ukraine.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Not only 100%, but actually 1,000%, and I can tell you the following. I did talk to Angela Merkel, and I did meet with her. I also met and talked with Macron, and I told them that they are not doing quite as much as they need to be doing on the issues with the sanctions. They are not enforcing the sanctions. They are not working as much as they should work for Ukraine. It turns out that even though logically the European Union should be our biggest partner, but technically the United States is a much bigger partner than the European Union, and I'm very grateful to you for that because the United States is doing quite a lot for Ukraine, much more than the European Union, especially when we are talking about sanctions against the Russian Federation. I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next step specifically. We are most ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes.
I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike, I guess you have one of your wealthy people, the server. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation. I think you're surrounding yourself with some of the same people. I would like to have the Attorney General call you or your people, and I'd like you to get to the bottom of it. As you saw yesterday, that whole nonsense ended with a very poor performance by a man named Robert Mueller, an incompetent performance. But they say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you can do, it's very important that you do it if that's possible.
Yes, it is very important for me and everything that you just mentioned earlier. For me as a president, it is very important that we are open for any future cooperation. We are ready to open a new page on cooperation and relations between the United States and Ukraine. For that purpose, I just recalled our ambassador from the United States, and he will be replaced by a very competent and very experienced ambassador who will work hard on making sure that our two nations are getting closer. I would also like and hope to see him having your trust and your confidence and have personal relations with you so we can cooperate even more so. I will personally tell you that one of my assistants spoke with Mr. Giuliani just recently, and we are hoping very much that Mr. Giuliani will be able to travel to Ukraine, and we will meet once he comes to Ukraine. I just wanted to assure you once again that you have nobody but friends around us. I will make sure that I surround myself with the best and most experienced people. I also wanted to tell you that we are friends. We are great friends, and you, Mr. President, have friends in our country, so we can continue our strategic partnership. I also plan to surround myself with great people, and in addition to that investigation, I guarantee as the President of Ukraine that all the investigations will be done openly and candidly. That I can assure you.
Good. Because I heard you had a prosecutor who was very good, and he was shut down. And that's really unfair. A lot of people are talking about that. The way they shut down your very good prosecutor, and you had some very bad people involved. Mr. Giuliani is a highly respected man. He was the mayor of New York City, a great mayor, and I would like him to call you. I will ask him to call you along with the Attorney General. Rudy very much knows what's happening. He's a very capable guy. If you speak to him, that would be great. This former ambassador from the United States, the woman, was bad news, and the people she was dealing with in the Ukraine were bad news. So I just want to let you know that. The other thing, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution. A lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me.
I wanted to tell you about the prosecutor. First of all, I understand and I'm knowledgeable about the situation. Since we have won the absolute majority in our parliament, the next prosecutor general will be 100% my person, my candidate, who will be approved by the parliament and will start as a new prosecutor in September. He or she will look into that situation, specifically to the company that you mentioned in this issue. The issue of the investigation of the case is actually the issue of making sure to restore the honesty, so we will take care of that, and we'll work on the investigation of the case. On top of that, I would kindly ask you if you have any additional information that you can provide to us. It would be very helpful for the investigation to make sure that we administer justice in our country with regard to the ambassador to the United States from Ukraine. As far as I can recall, her name was Ivanovich. It was great that you were the first one who told me that she was a bad ambassador, because I agree with you 100%. Her attitude towards me was far from the best, as she admired the previous president, and she was on his side. She would not accept me as a new president well enough.
Well, she's going to go through some things. I will have Mr. Giuliani give you a call, and I'm also going to have Attorney General Barr call, and we will get to the bottom of it. I'm sure you will figure it out. I heard the prosecutor was treated very badly. He was a very fair prosecutor, so good luck with everything. Your economy is going to get better and better, I predict. You have a lot of assets. It's a great country. I have many Ukrainian friends. They are incredible people.
I would like to tell you that I also have quite a few Ukrainian friends that live in the United States. Actually, last time I traveled to the United States, I stayed in New York near Central Park, and I stayed at the Trump Tower. I will talk to them, and I hope to see them again in the future. I also wanted to thank you for your invitation to visit the United States, specifically Washington, D.C. On the other hand, I also want to assure you that we will be very serious about the case and will work on the investigation. As to the economy, there is much potential for our two countries, and one of the issues that is very important for Ukraine is energy independence. I believe we can be very successful in cooperating on energy independence with the United States. We are already working on cooperation. We are buying American oil, but I am very hopeful for a future meeting. We will have more time and more opportunities to discuss these opportunities and get to know each other better. I would like to thank you very much for your support.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. I will tell Rudy and Attorney General Barr to call. Thank you. Whenever you would like to come to the White House, feel free to call. Give us a date. We'll work that out. I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much. I would be very happy to come and would be happy to meet with you personally and get to know you better. I'm looking forward to our meeting, and I also would like to invite you to visit Ukraine and come to the city of Kyiv, which is a beautiful city. We have a beautiful country which would welcome you. On the other hand, I believe that on September 1st, we will be in Poland, and we can meet in Poland, hopefully. After that, it might be a very good idea for you to travel to Ukraine. We can either take my plane and go to Ukraine, or we can take your plane, which is probably much better than mine.
Okay, we can work that out. I look forward to seeing you in Washington and maybe in Poland because I think we are going to be there at that time.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Congratulations on a fantastic job you've done. The whole world was watching. I'm sure it was so much of an upset, but congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bye-bye.
End of conversation. Now that is it. That is it. That's everything that the president and Zelensky said. And Adam Schiff, on the basis of that, said this, cut number 1 on Meet the Press yesterday.
Investigation. Your investigation is about the specifics of what the president did with the aid, with Ukraine, with Rudy Giuliani, and how much of your investigation is about the attempt to keep that from you?
Well, I think really the gravamen of the offense here is the president using the power of his office to coerce a foreign nation into helping his presidential campaign to once again interfere in our election, and at the same time withholding foreign aid that country so desperately needs to fight off who? The Russians. That to me is the most serious constellation of issues, and I know that many people have suggested, and it may have been true in the past, that the cover-up is the bigger crime. Sometimes the cover-up is the easier crime to prove. But here, yes, the cover-up is very serious, but I don't want to lose sight of that fundamental breach of the president's oath of office, the duty to defend our country, our Constitution. And here, the president is once again not just inviting, but coercing a foreign nation to get involved to try to help him in yet another presidential election. So to me, that's the most serious.
And this is what I said Sunday on Meet the Press in response to hearing Adam Schiff do that, cut number 11.
I want to pick up on something that Professor Kern said, which is...
He was my student.
I was her student.
I told you
she
I was
like
older
10.
than everybody.
She was like 10. But the most important thing that was said this morning thus far is Adam Schiff came on and he went full Alice in Wonderland, Queen of Hearts. Verdict first, trial later. I believe he destroyed his credibility this morning on this show as a fair arbiter of this process. The key other thing about is there enough time, is there a middle? That middle is tired of investigating President Trump. It has gone on for 2 years, and the most interesting part of the Nancy Pelosi decision to go for a fast impeachment is the implicit but very real concession that the Mueller report had no impeachable offense, no obstruction, no collusion. It's gone. They have erased it from the record. So Adam Schiff is biased, and Nancy Pelosi has admitted that Mueller exonerated Trump.
I played that on Monday. I'm playing it on Tuesday. I'm playing it every day. And I'm going to replay the transcript reading from Dwayne and I every day. Maybe not every day, but I'm going to at least do it for a few days. I want people to hear it. It's absurd. It's a completely absurd sham. It is a pre-cooked meal designed to feed Democratic hunger for their Trump derangement syndrome calorie need. You need ReliefFactor.com. Even if you're in great shape and you're feeling terrific and you go running after everything, if you're running up and down in New York, like I'm doing, running for the subway, what I'm doing, you need ReliefFactor.com. You might not be hurtling through airports. You may not be doing anything except reaching for the peanut butter, but if you're hurt, try ReliefFactor.com. Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. 4 natural supplements that everybody ought to take every single day. 4 natural supplements which are vital to your health. 4 natural supplements that nature has proven for millennia are useful, but which the founders of ReliefFactor.com, Peter and Seth, they just put together in the greatest, scientifically defensible, perfectly proportionate way. $19.95 gets you started. 3 weeks of ReliefFactor.com. Join the tens of thousands of people who take it every morning. If you got it on your shelf, don't forget to leave the house without taking it. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 45 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for listening to the Hugh Hewitt Show. President of the United States has been tweeting. After many years, the United States is finally waking up to Beijing's plan. This is a quote from the president. He's quoting someone. Finally woken up to the ambitions to pass us up as the dominant economic and military superpower in the 21st century. What's happening now is that the U.S. is finally responding. Thank you, President Trump. This is taking place in trade. It's taking shape in military competition. Jonathan Ward, author and China expert. President adds, we are winning, and we will win. They should not have broken the deal with us. Happy birthday, China. 7 minutes ago. Again, the president of the Ukraine said there was, all in caps now, no, paren, zero pressure put on him by me, case closed. Then 5 minutes ago, all in caps. Who changed the long-standing whistleblower rules just before submittal of the fake whistleblower report? Drain the swamp. And then 3 minutes ago, hashtag fake whistleblower. Now, you should know that there's a counter-argument that the whistleblower rules were changed in August. That has been attacked by the Daily Beast. It is called a smear by the Daily Beast. I'm not sure what the truth is. The kernel of fact near the center of the conspiracy, according to the Daily Beast, is in fact there was a new version of Form 401 dated August 2019. A question on the form explicitly anticipates tips based on secondhand information and asks the whistleblower to check a box. I have direct or personal knowledge, or I have heard about it from others. What the article didn't mention in the screenshot is nearly identical field gracing Form 401 since at least May 2018, making it impossible that it was added as an easement for Trump's whistleblower. That's simply not true. What, whistleblowers and coups can't think ahead? So I don't know why it was changed. That is a legitimate source of inquiry. We're not going to get it from Adam Schiff. Dan in Minnesota. Hi, Dan. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Thank you, Hugh. Here in Minnesota, Twin Cities especially, some of the news outlets are suggesting, or at least in the talk radio news, the big stations here, that the report that we hear from our president's been doctored or parts have been redacted. And I thought, how do we defend that? How do we call in and debate that point with them, my friends?
Well, you call in and you say the fact that it's a 30-minute phone call, but the transcript takes 10 or 15 minutes, is because it was translated on both sides. So that when the president said something in English, it had to be repeated in Ukrainian. And when the Ukraine president something, it had to be translated in English. So rough transcript simply means they might have gotten a word wrong. Yesterday, Meet the Press put out a transcript of what I said, and they heard war in Ohio when I said war in Ohio. So that was a rough transcript with a funny error in it. There may be errors in this transcript, but did you hear anything at all in that transcript about that would be an impeachable offense?
No, nothing. It was wonderful. It was fabulous. And the president has a duty to find out what corruption is going on with Americans abroad, especially those that are in government. So it's wonderful.
It is a completely fine conversation. And people are cowed in Washington, D.C. I want you to know this. People are completely cowed inside the Beltway. They feel like, even if they think impeachment is a sham, and a lot of people believe that, just a complete, utter coup attempt, they still have to feel, well, the president was indiscreet. The president was off the reservation. No, it's a perfectly understandable conversation. Maybe he should have rehearsed more, but the president of Ukraine brought up Giuliani, and the president brought up CrowdStrike. And I don't know what to think about CrowdStrike. I don't know what John Durham has. All I know is neither does Adam Schiff. All I know is that Hunter Biden was getting $50,000 a month, but he wasn't subject to a FISA warrant like Carter Page was, on the very flimsy allegation that Carter Page represented a national security threat. As you go around your business today, ask yourself again and again, why in the world would a Ukrainian oligarch pay Hunter Biden $50,000 a month to be on his board? when he doesn't know anything about the natural gas business, can't speak Ukrainian, doesn't know a lick about board governance? Why would he do that? Why would the Ukrainian offer it? Why would Hunter Biden take it? He needed the money. And then what vulnerability does that expose him to? And I don't mean lobbying his dad. That's too blunt. I mean, what subtle things might Hunter Biden do for $50,000 a month? Ask yourself that. He needs to go under oath in front of the relevant committees, but he's not. Adam Schiff's going to run a sham committee, completely sham investigation. And if people don't understand this, we're going to make sure they do. We're going to play that transcript again tomorrow. People need to focus on the transcript and then focus on the sham that is Adam Schiff. Thank you for listening, America. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Generalissimo. Superb reading. I'll be back tomorrow from New York on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Alliance Defending Freedom.
Everything's all right. I'm tired of feeling.
All right, welcome, America, to the postgame show.
I'm looking for the war in Ohio. Where did the battle break out?
Well, it was the Toledo War, fought in the 1835 to 1836 over the Toledo border. We won.
Is Cincinnati going after Cleveland again?
No, the war in Ohio. But I got to ask you something.
Yeah.
Got to ask you something.
Yeah.
Can I hear your Ukrainian accent? We made the command decision not to have Dwayne use a Ukrainian accent.
You are absolutely right, Miss. I can't do a Ukrainian. We've did been big and we've worked. I sound like Boris and Natasha.
Well, try it.
No, I can't do. I can't even do Russian.
No, I know, but Russian is Ukrainian. Just do it, just one time.
We worked a lot. we wouldn't have been able to do it.
No, come on. Let's start over. Congratulations on a great victory.
Well, okay, wait. You got at least
congratulations on a great victory. We all watched from the United States. You did a terrific job. Terrific job. The way you came from behind somebody who wasn't given much of a chance, and you end up winning easily. It's a fantastic achievement. Fantastic. Congratulations.
You are absolutely right, Mr. President. We did win big, and we worked hard for this.
It's not Dracula. It's a Ukraine.
I can't do Ukraine.
You sound like Count Chocula.
Yakov Smirnov or somebody.
No, that would be it. But you sound like Count Chocula. Do it again.
I can't. No.
Go ahead. You are absolutely right, Mr. President. We did win big. And worked hard for these. We worked a lot, but I would like to confess to you that I had an opportunity to learn from you. We used quite a few of your skills and knowledge and were able to use it as an example of our election. And yes, it is quite true. These were unique elections. We were in a unique situation that we were able to achieve a unique success. I'm able to tell you the following. The first time you called me to congratulate me when I won my presidential election, and the second time you are now calling me when my party won the parliamentary election. I think I should run more often, so you can call me more often and we can talk over the phone more often.
That's a very good idea. I think
you are bad at everything.
I'm bad at accents.
Oh my gosh.
I can read, but I can't. I don't do accents.
Well, the key is the transcript, because I don't think enough people have read it, and I think that when they hear that conversation, they're gonna say, "What?" Look, that's why Schiff made it up, by the way. That's why he pretended a different call happened.
There's too much of this now that is starting. I mean, the cool thing about Twitter and the cool thing about social media is there is a lot of forensic CSI Ukraine going on right now. And what may have been a scandal in 10, 15, 20 years ago is being debunked in real time by real serious people. Molly Hemingway, Sean Davis, there's all sorts of people that are reporting on this, and it's just, I mean, you mentioned Kim Strassel. She's been tweeting just epic work on this. This scandal is falling apart.
It is falling apart, and I will also say that all the social media helps. Jim Garrity has published a timeline this morning. The New Yorker got given a Joe Biden exclusive by the Joe Biden campaign, I assume, to interview Hunter Biden. And they did a, quote, profile. I've been profiled by the New Yorker. I know what it means. And they give you a chronology in there somewhere. And it's all fact-checked. And so this New Yorker, it's impossible to get a chronology out of it. I mean, he's in rehab here. He's in an affair here. He's back in rehab there. He's got a job here with that guy. And then Ukraine. It's all a mess. So then yesterday, the Washington Post comes out, and it starts out the same way, kind of a mess, and it gets into the Ukraine. Jim Garrity today does the important thing. He lays it out day by day by day, month by month, year by year. Hunter Biden is dirty. It's just dirty.
You cannot come up with an altruistic reason that he gets paid $50,000 a month while Joe Biden is vice president. You just can't.
Not altruistic. I think the word you're looking for is rational. Altruistic would be just giving him the money because he's a wreck, and he is a wreck. But rational meaning, why would you bring him in? Why do you think the boss brought him in, the Ukrainian oligarch?
Because his last name is Biden, and he could flash that around.
But he could flash it much more sinister reasons too. Just give give yourself. If this guy is working for the GRU, if this guy is working for the president of Ukraine who got exiled to Russia, if he's got ties into Putin, think of what you could do with Hunter Biden at $50,000 a month.
There is more collusion there than there is with Trump and Russia.
And the Carter Page tweeted about me last night because he gets it. He's saying, if I'm going to be hounded by an illegitimate no justice investigation, why would a legitimate target of concern, the vice president's son, getting $50,000 a month? Can you imagine if Carter Page had gotten $50,000 a month from a Ukrainian oil company? What would be going on right now?
The media would be apoplectic right now.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Well, I'm in New York tomorrow, and I'm going to play this again because people, without your accent, Count Chocula, that's your new nickname, Count Chocula.
Because I don't have enough nicknames.
You don't. People need to know who you are, Count Chocula, and we will explain it to him again tomorrow. Thank you, Adam.
By the way,
Ben.
tomorrow night, just quick plug for tomorrow night on the after show, John Campbell will be here. John Campbell says of all the people he's ever met in Congress, the biggest single liar, according to John Campbell, that he has ever run across is Adam Schiff.
Adam Schiff. Well, I hope you get him on the record saying that tomorrow.
Absolutely.
If you want to listen to the after show, you have to subscribe to the universe. Go to HughHewitt.com and do that. Don't forget the Alliance Defending Freedom as well. Thank you, America. I'll be back tomorrow on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. Russian music. I love it.